Namaste. Good morning to all of you. Again, very glad to be back here. So today it's stories about love. Yesterday Beluji presented 3 versions of the same story and it was so beautiful. All the facets of Chitrangada that we never knew. So it was so wonderful. Today also I'm going to present 3 stories, but 3 different stories. In fact, one is supposed to be a historical event. So I'll come to that. So before I do, I would like to know how many of you are familiar with O. Henry's short story, The Gift of the Magi? The Gift of the Magi. Okay. So this first story is that. So mostly I see people are not aware of that story. So the word Magi means basically it comes from the root word magic. Mage is singular, Magi is plural. So it may mean wise men who can do miracles. It's something like that. Mage to Magi, plural. So this refers to the 3 wise men who went to visit the baby Jesus when he was born. You all heard that. Now 3 wise men came from the east following the star, and they reached Bethlehem where the baby Jesus was there, and they brought their gifts. So O. Henry derives the title of his story from that event, but he tells it in a modern context, the story. This is about a couple who are deeply in love with each other. They are married, husband and wife, but struggling in life. The husband is Jim and the wife is Della. And they live in a flat, and they love each other very much. And I'll just read the first. I won't be reading the whole story because that would take a lot of time. Just 1 or 2 paragraphs I'll read. They are very much in love with each other, and it's Christmas. So it's expected that they would gift something to each other. So that is the context. And he begins the story like this. $1.87. That was all. She had put it aside, 1 cent and then another, in her careful buying of meat and other food. Della counted it 3 times. $1.87. And the next day it would be Christmas. There was nothing to do but fall on the bed and cry. So Della did it. Okay, so now this is what it is. She wanted to give some gift to Jim, and she did a lot of efforts to save some money, and $1.87 is all that she could save. Now the story goes like this, that like I told you, they are struggling. They're a struggling couple. Della doesn't work, Jim works. And previously he used to earn $30 a week. Now it has come down to $20 for some reason, and they are struggling. And the story starts with Della's position. She's at home alone and she's so miserable. She cries and all that, and she wants to give some very good gift to Jim, but she doesn't have the money. So what she does is, O. Henry says there are 2 very valuable things in their household. They may be poor and struggling, but there are 2 treasures in their house. One is the hair of Della. She had hair like flowing water which went below her knees, such long hair. And there is a paragraph where he describes this. If a queen had lived in the rooms near theirs, Della would have washed and dried her hair where the queen could see it. Della knew her hair was more beautiful than any queen's jewels and gifts. And if a king had lived in the same house with all his riches, Jim would have looked at his watch every time they met. Jim knew that no king had anything so valuable. Now this watch that Jim owned, it was his father's, and before that it was his grandfather's. So it was a family heirloom kind of a thing. It was a gold watch. It was, you can say it was an antique piece. It was, you cannot buy it with money. It's coming back from 2-3 generations. So, but Jim had an ordinary iron band for it. He didn't have a matching band for that watch. So Della wanted to buy a matching gold chain for his watch. And Jim used to be ashamed of his watch. In fact, in spite of being having such a fantastic position, he was just ashamed of the chain he had to, to go with the watch. So he never used to see his watch while in the company of people. He used to go aside and see the time. So Della wanted to bring him out of that situation. She wanted to present him a matching gold chain for the watch, and that is why she wanted the money. So what Della does is, she goes to a hairdresser who make wigs and who buy hair, and she tells them, "Can you buy my hair? Can you give me some money for my hair?" And she lets it flow, the hair. And of course, the hairdressers are very impressed. They said, of course. So they pay her a good amount, $20, they say, equivalent to Jim's Jim's salary. She takes the money and she buys a wonderful matching gold chain for his watch. And she comes home and she's very happy. But when she looks at herself in the mirror, she sees that she's looking like a schoolboy. With all her hair gone, it's a boy's cut, and she's looking like a schoolboy. So, and she's very worried that Jim is going to kill me if he sees me like this. And but what could I do with $1.87? She's telling herself. So Jim comes home, and when he comes home, he's just staring at her like that. He's totally stunned looking at her. And she says, "Come on, I've sold my watch. I've cut my hair and I've sold it. You don't have to look for it. It's gone. But don't you love me? Do you love my hair? Don't you love me?" She comes up with all that, And Jim is totally stunned and he doesn't know what to say. And the last portion, the whole story I've compressed in this much, and last portion I'll read it to you. You must see what O. Henry himself is saying. From inside the coat, Jim took something tied in paper. He threw it upon the table. "I want you to understand me, Dell," he said. "Nothing like a haircut could make me love you any less. But if you'll open that, you may know what I felt when I came in." White fingers pulled off the paper, and then a cry of joy, and then a change to tears. There lay the combs that Della had seen in a shop window and loved for a long time. Beautiful combs with jewels, perfect for her beautiful hair. She had known they cost too much for her to buy them. She had looked at them without the least hope of owning them. And now they were hers, but her hair was gone. But she held them to her heart and at last was able to look up and say, "My hair grows so fast, Jim." And then she jumped up and cried, Oh, Jim had not seen his valuable gift. She held it out to him in her open hand. The gold seemed to shine softly as if with her own warm and loving spirit. "Isn't it perfect, Jim? I hunted all over the town to find it. You will have to look at your watch 100 times a day now. Give me your watch. I want to see how they look together." Jim sat down and smiled. "Della," said he, "let's put our Christian gifts away and keep them a while. They are too nice to use now. I sold the watch to get the money to buy the combs. And now I think we should have our dinner." So now I'll read the last paragraph that O. Henry writes as a commentary kind of thing. "The Magi, as you know, were wise men, wonderfully wise men who brought gifts to the newborn Christ child. They were the first to give Christmas gifts. Being wise, their gifts were doubtless wise ones. And here I have told you a story of two children who were not wise. Each sold the most valuable thing he owned in order to buy a gift for the other. But let me speak a last word to the wise of these days. Of all who give gifts, These two were the most wise. Of all who give and receive gifts such as they are the most wise. Everywhere they are the wise ones. They are the Magi. So O. Henry in effect is saying that the Magi who came to visit the baby Jesus, they gave their gifts with the expectation of receiving divine blessings. After all, God is born on earth. And they were the first ones to recognize that He is the divine child. And they went there with that expectation that we would be getting divine blessings. So in their giving those gifts, there was a tinge of selfishness also. They had that expectation that we would be receiving divine blessings. That's why they traveled so far to go to Bethlehem. But here, O. Henry is saying, these people, their love is so pure, it's so unselfish, that they are higher than the gifts of the Magi. Because their love is their gifts and their love is unselfish. Because they sacrificed the most valuable thing they had. Because they wanted to give it to someone they love. So this is, you see, it's a modern day love story, you can say. So what do you make of it? Yesterday I showed you one slide where Sri Aurobindo has talked about the higher vital. Could this story be related to that? Sorry. You see this first part. There are in the vital itself two kinds of love. One full of joy and confidence and abandon, generous, unbargaining, ungrudging. So is the love of Jim and Dilla, is it of this category? I would want you to think, or do you think it's psychic love? I won't offer any answer, so you have to think for yourself. Whether it could be any reflections on this story you heard just now? Okay, now something of a different flavor. This is a poem by Tagore. It's in Bengali. It's the name of the poem is Obhishar. Obhishar means when a lover goes to meet one person goes to meet his or her lover. And I have translated this from the Bengali. This translation is mine. You won't find it in the books. Tagore did not translate this. There's no his original translation. Otherwise I would have used that. So this is my translation from the Bengali. Just pay attention and read this. I'll read it out to you, and it will be there on the screen. It's a story. He tells a story through this poem. And I have named it The Lovers Meet at Last. This title also is mine. This is, of course, not Tagore's. So, the story begins. By the walls of Mathura lay the monk Upagupta. The lights of the town had gone out, the doors were barred, the stars in the monsoon sky were enshrouded in dark clouds. Whose anklet bells suddenly resounded in the cavern of his heart? The dreamy eyes opened in an instant as a rude light struck his compassionate eyelids. The courtesan of the town walks the streets. In the drunken pride of her youthful beauty, sapphire blue is her attire, accompanied by the tinkling sound of her adornments. Unwittingly, as her feet struck the monk's body, Vasavadatta stood still. She is the courtesan of the town, the most beautiful woman in the town. Holding up her earthen lamp, she beheld the fair youth. A placid, glowing face and eyes radiating compassion. A moon-like serenity dwelt on that fair brow. With bashful eyes, the maiden uttered in a melodious timbre, "Pardon me, O youthful one. Pray be kind enough to come to my home. This hard bed of earth cannot be your rightful place." Vasavadatta is attracted to him. In a pitiful voice, the monk replied, "The time is not yet, O radiant one. Go now where you ought to go. When the time is ripe, I myself shall appear at your door." Suddenly a lightning pierced the dark, gloomy sky. The pretty maiden shivered as the storm wind lashed the earth as if in a mocking laughter. Probably the only time Vasavadatta faced rejection. That's why that mocking laughter. The year was not yet over. The spring breeze had become robust. Flowers bloomed on the wayside trees and in the king's garden. The intoxicating sound of a flute from afar came floating through the air. The streets were desolate. The townspeople had all gone to the spring fair as the full moon smiled gently on the deserted town. On the moon-bathed streets walks alone the monk. From the green canopy above, the cuckoos cry out off and on. Has the night of their rendezvous finally arrived? Leaving the town behind, the monk goes outside the walls. He stands by the moat in the darkness of the shadows of the grove of mango trees. Who is that woman lying at his feet? Ravaged with the attack of the black pestilence. This is smallpox actually. Ravaged with the attack of the black pestilence, the townspeople had carried her diseased body and cast it outside the city walls by the moat, banishing her toxic presence from their midst. Sitting down, the monk took up the stiff head and placed it on his lap with tenderness, poured water into the parched lips, and uttered soothing words to comfort. And with his hands, rubbed a cool sandalwood paste all over her body. The flowers were falling, the cuckoos were calling, the night was entranced in moonlight. Who are you that has come, O merciful one? Asked the maiden. The monk replies, Tonight the time has arrived. I have come, Vasavadatta. That's it. So, any reflections from your side? Those of you who are Bengali, the last lines are, Aji রজনীতে হয়েছে সময় এসেছি বাসবদত্তা. What kind of a love is this? Do you want me to show the slides once again? At least the last 2-3 slides. Nothing? Nothing to share?
Can we go back one more chance first?
Go back to the beginning.
One more slide behind. Before he starts walking out of the wall of the city. Behind.
This one? Okay, shall I proceed to the next story then? Okay, people are still taking it in. Okay.
No, we know it, but we don't know the answer. So they're expecting. People know the answer. Yes,
I'm just trying to. Okay. According to my understanding, Vasavista's love was a physical one to begin with, because
Yes.
she's attracted to him.
Yes, yes.
But for the monk, he recognizes her as a soul, and there is a soul connection. But his love is more psychic, because he says, I'll come when the time is right. Because he just does not look at her as a beautiful body, but beyond that.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Any other? Yes, he said so. Yes. And when she was rejected by the whole town, the most beautiful woman. Okay. Now, this is supposed to be a historical event. In fact, Beluji and I were discussing whether this is really authentic or not, but it sounds authentic. There are, in fact, I didn't get anywhere that this is not true, and there is every possibility they met because they lived in the same time. So this is what happens, you see, in the path of divine love. Even the great bhaktas, they face challenges in life from society, from their family. And Mirabai, as you know, she was a God-intoxicated lover. She had faced those problems. And here, she kind of seeks comfort and advice from Tulsidas, knowing that he is also a God intoxicated lover. So whether he could guide her, and that is what she writes a letter to him actually. And it's an 8-line letter. I wanted to give you a taste of that Hindi she wrote. This is Awadhi Hindi. Beluji, what Hindi is this? Awadhi.
Tulsidas' Hindi would be Awadhi.
Awadhi.
I don't know what
Mirabai. So, yeah, I'm not an expert in Hindi, but I loved it so much that I could have given you just the English translation, but I wanted you to get a taste of the language. When saints speak to each other, what kind of language they write, and I wanted to give you a taste of that. So see what Mirabai is asking Tulsidas. The letter of Mirabai. Swasti Sri Tulasi Sukhanidhana Dukkha Harana Gosai. Swasti Sri Goswami Tulsidas Ji, the benevolent and benefactor of blessings and happiness. Barahi bar pranam karahu, ab harahu shok samudai. I make salutations to your feet repeatedly. Please destroy my host of grief and sufferings. घर के स्वजन हमारे जेते सबहु उपाधि बढ़ाई. All my family members, whoever there are, in my house are creating troubles. Sadhu saga aru bhajan karat nahi deta bhajan nahi karat nahi det kalesh mahai. Because of my association with saints and my devotion, which causes intense suffering to me. All my family members, whoever there are, in my house are creating troubles because of my association with saints and my devotion, which causes intense suffering to me. Det kalesh mahai. They give me a lot of suffering. Balapante miri kinhi giridhar mitai. Since childhood, Meera has made friendship with Giridhar Lal. So to ab छूटाई नहीं, क्यों हूँ लागी लगन बरियाई. That cannot be broken now because the bond of attachment is too strong to break now. मेरे माता पिता के समहौ हरिभक्त तन्हा सुखदाई. For me, Haribhaktas are dear and equal to my mother and father. I like you, she is telling Tulsidas. You are like my parents. हमको कहा उचित करीबो है, सो लिखिए समझाई. So what should be proper for me to do? Please write and explain. So likhiye samujhai. This is Mirabai's letter, and this is the response of Tulsidas, the reply of Tulsidas. Jaake priya na Ram Vaidehi. For whom Jaake, Ram and Vaidehi, Sita, are not dear. So chhadiye, leave them. Koti Bairi Sama. They are equal to Koti enemies. Jadyapi Parama Snehi, even if they are very near and dear ones. For whom Ram and Sita are not dear, they are your enemies. Just leave them. No matter how dear they are to you. That means for the divine, all other relationships can be sacrificed. But the divine cannot be sacrificed for any other relation. That is where they reside, in that plane. For them, all other relationships are meaningless. Tajyo pita prahlada vibhishana bandhu Bharata Mahatari. Prahlad disowned his father, Vibhishan his brother, Bharat his mother, Kaikeyi. Bali Guru Tajyo, Kant Braja Banitani, Bhai Muda Mangalkari. Bhai Muda Mangalkari. King Bali renounced his guru, Shukracharya. You must be knowing that story, Vamana Avatar. When Vamana appears and Shukracharya tells him, this is not Vamana, he is Vishnu. He has come to rob you of your kingdoms. Don't listen to him. Then Bali, by that time, he is already into his devotion. He says, how can I refuse the Lord? If this is the Lord, I can't say no to him. Then Shukracharya curses him. But he takes his guru's curse but remains faithful to the Lord. And that is why Vaman gives him immortality. You know now, on Onam he comes back to his people. All the asuras do tapas to achieve immortality. Mujhe amaratva de do. But they never get immortality. Vishnu comes and kills them somehow. But Bali is one who, because of his devotion, Vishnu on his own grants him immortality. Because of Bali's devotion. He disobeyed his own guru and he totally went into his devotion and said, Lord, whatever you want, put your 3 steps. And the last step he said, put it on my head. So this Bali Guru Tyajyo, Kanta Vraja Banitani, the gopis of Vraja, they sacrificed their husbands and were blissful, and it was auspicious for them, that sacrifice. Nate neha Ram ke maniyat, surid susebya jana jahan lo. In relation to Ram alone are all kith and kin worthy of love. Anjan kaha aakhi jehi futai, bahutak kahau kaha lo. What good is that kajal that destroys eyesight? What more could be explained for this? In relation to Ram alone are all kith and kin worthy of love. Not at his expense. Tulsi so sab bhati parama hit pujya prante pyaro. For Tulsi he is dear who arouses love and devotion. Jaso hoye saneha Ramapad eto mato hamaro. And who is devoted to the lotus feet of Ram, this is my opinion. For Tulsi, he is dear who arouses love and devotion and who is devoted to the lotus feet of Ram. This is my opinion. For Tulsi, that person is also dear, who is devoted to Ram and the lotus pad of Ram, lotus feet of Ram. And he ends it by saying, this is my opinion. Because she asked for his opinion. So this is it, and I have got a beautiful recording of this. This has become a very famous Tulsi bhajan, this reply of Tulsidas. I'll just play it for you. It's just less than 2.5 minutes. You'll really like it.
1500 प्रीलोडेड गानों वाला कीपैड फोन धमाकेदार साउंड के साथ कारवा मोबाइल।
जाके प्रियन राम
Once more? It's only 2.5 minutes. And the whole song is not there. Should I play it once more?
Mobile.